Maiden poles, maiden wins, teammate infighting, and team orders being ignored. Brazil 2022 had everything. So to everybody's shock, Kevin Magnussen qualified on pole for the sprint. So he set the fastest time in Q3, and a red flag was thrown in that session because George Russell spun out. And then when the session did resume, the rain got heavier and no driver could outdo Kevin's time. So it was his first ever pole and also Haas's first ever pole.
You're kidding. You're kidding. You're kidding me. I've never ever felt like this in my life.
Look at the scenes down at Haas. Kevin Magnussen, who thought he was out of Formula One.
In the sprint, Alpine civil war. So Esteban Ocon made a move on Fernando Alonso that caused contact. Fernando Alonso made a move on Esteban Ocon, caused a collision. Fernando got a 5-second time penalty for it. Of course, he came on the radio with a very sarcastic message saying, "I lost a front wing thanks to our friend." Also in the sprint, Lance made a move on Sebastian Vettel. He forced him onto the grass, and that caused a 10-second penalty for Lance for dangerous driving. Back to the Alpine civil war. So within the race itself, Esteban was told that Fernando has a tyre advantage, i.e. our race is not with him, do not race Fernando. And Esteban said, "Let me race." And his engineer said, "Esteban, I don't want you fighting with Fernando. Is that understood?" And I believe after Brazil, because of the conduct between both drivers, they were actually threatened with being replaced. I mean, these two did not get along. Also in the race, Daniel Ricciardo and Kevin Magnussen collided. It resulted in a 3-place grid drop for Daniel Ricciardo. Max and Lewis collided, and Lando and Charles collided, and both Max and Lando got 5-second time penalties. Red Bull and team orders. Where to begin? So Max had already won the driver's title by this point, and Red Bull the constructors. So the entire focus was getting Checo to P2 in the drivers' championship because Red Bull had never got a 1-2 before. With a few laps to go, Checo was struggling on the medium tyres, so they asked him to let Max through so that he could go and overtake Fernando. The idea being that if he wasn't able to, then he would give the place back to Checo. But on the final lap, Max was asked to give the place back to Checo. He didn't respond, and then they asked him again, and he said, "I told you already last summer, you guys don't ask that again to me, okay? Are we clear about that? I gave my reasons and I stand by it." The idea or speculation being that Max was very angry at what happened during qualifying at the Monaco Grand Prix, where with very little time left, Checo did crash. That basically stopped the session, and Max was on a flying lap, meaning he couldn't finish his session. So the thinking was that Checo crashed deliberately to stay ahead. Checo replied with, "It shows who he really is," because remember, Max had already won the championship. He could have swapped, but as he says, "I gave my reasons." But in all of the chaos, it was George Russell's maiden win. He came out on top that day, and it was also the first race since Canada 2010 where we got British drivers in P1 and P2, with Lewis being in P2. And I will leave you with this video of George FaceTiming Toto after his maiden win.
I hope George Russell's talking to his mum and dad.
It's more likely Toto.
Oh, it is Toto.
Yeah.